What's going on, guys? It's the Unhinged Engineer here, and today I'm going to talk about a pretty unhinged topic, right? So you probably read the title. You definitely read the title. I really believe that good engineers are defined by their failures, right? So I think there's this common phrase that we tell ourselves and tell each other that you're not defined by your failures. You're more than that. You're so much more than that. You're such like a beautiful, special snowflake. And I don't want to deny anybody their snowflakedom. But to me, I really do think that, I do believe that I am defined by my failures. I think the quality of my work, the quality of my experience, and kind of the mindset I bring to my current job and in future jobs will be defined by the periods of my career that were the most difficult, that pushed me the hardest. And a lot of time they push me the hardest to the point of breaking and ultimately not achieving things that I set out to do. So failed job interviews that I got rejected, failed projects, initiatives that didn't bear any fruit, right? Dropping out of classes. So I have learned a lot from my failures. And I really do believe that that's what defines me as a good engineer. And so, however good I may be at my job, if I hand somebody my resume, they're going to look at all the things that I've written down as successes, right? Nobody writes failed to do X on their resume. But if you really talk to me and we sit down and we do like an interview or even just obviously a talk, it doesn't have to be an interview, and you ask me about lessons I've learned or ways I've grown, I'm not going to sit there and blab about my accomplishments, right? That's a really, really common mistake I think a lot of people do. And I think it really shows a lot of character if you can talk about ways you failed and ways you grew after that failure, right? And so, yeah, I think to me, engineering is hard. I think being a really good engineer, whether it's a software engineer, an aerospace engineer, an AI engineer, like anything like that. Not that AI engineer has a good definition yet, but whatever. Any type of engineer. What's going to make you a good engineer is not only failure, so not only the end result being not what you wanted or not what you expected, but also kind of like that limbo phase where you're working towards something and you don't really know what you're doing and you're putting hours into it and you're not making any progress, and you sit down to work, you work for however many hours, and then you get up and nothing's been achieved. Or even worse, you did, like counterproductive work. Like there have literally been times for some of my grad school projects, which if you didn't know, I'm vlogging my grad school journey, where I literally sit down and get up afterwards feeling like less far along in the project, less of an understanding of what I have to do, and ultimately less confidence in going to be able to achieve that goal than when I sat down there, right? And that's really hard. But I do believe that if you're not failing, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. Because I think the worst thing you could be in today's world, especially for something as fast moving and as just cutthroat competitive as STEM, is stagnant, right? And so I really think about my career as like, if you look at Mario, like if he jumps from the bottom of a brick, he'll like bang his head into it and like, and like for the first 9 bangs on the brick, nothing comes out, and then eventually like a little, I don't know, star comes out, or what are those flowers called? With the fireball flowers, you get what I'm getting at. That's how I think about my career, right? And I'm just constantly, taking on projects that I didn't feel like I was prepared to do, or taking on positions that I didn't feel like I was qualified for, or, even just trying to teach myself things that I have no business teaching myself, right? As someone who specialized in the things I've specialized in, you can be anything, but you can't be everything. And so sometimes I really tried to stretch that limit as hard as I could, and again, ultimately failed. And I really do think that those failures are what define you. Like they are what, they're ultimately what somebody's going to pay you for. Because, you're going to show up again for a job interview, and you're going to hand somebody your resume, and they're going to look at all your accomplishments. And then if you're lucky, they're going to hire you. But when you sit down and, you get through all the bullshit, like setting up your computer with IT and the compliance training and all that crap, and then you really start working, are you going to feel the way you felt when you were yapping and bragging about your resume in the interview? Or are you going to feel the way you felt for the first 90% of that accomplishment and all the other, failures that could have been accomplishments, the would-be accomplishments, where you felt like shit and you felt like you weren't accomplishing anything and that you were a failure, right? which one are you going to feel like when you're actually working towards solving that difficult problem that, if we're lucky as engineers, we're being paid to solve? That's the feeling, right? So that's literally what we're paid to do. Like, I really do think about my career a lot of the time as like, I am paid to eat shit until eventually I produce something good. And this is why I said this was like an unhinged take, right? So, you know, I really do believe, like, I've met lots of people who are just addicted to success. They're the 4.0s, they're the valedictorians, they're the 19 internships by the time they graduate. And I am not that person. I'm just not. However successful I may or may not be, I'm not that person. Like, I talked about, you know, I made a video about how to get return offers from internships because I've gotten every possible outcome from internships. I've had internships where I got the offer before I even completed it. I have internships where I didn't want the offer. I didn't go back. I have internships where I wanted the offer and got rejected, right? I've had every possible combination. And honestly, like, the internships where I got the return offer probably taught me a little bit less than the ones where I got rejected or it just kind of fizzled out and the relationship disappeared, right? Because those other two were a lot harder. They were a lot harder. They didn't go the way I wanted, and they taught me more, right? They've taught me so much. I mean, another thing I think about when it comes to failures is, you know, I currently work in a research lab, and we have an IRAD process, and I spent 6 months trying to grind out a proposal on this, you know, benchmarking this new type of compute that had a lot of promise for neural networks in like control loops, like a bunch of crazy shit. And I worked on this for 6 months on top of my normal work, by the way, got rejected. Like, we got all the way to the end and then got rejected. They funded 2 projects and we were told that we came in 3rd place. Not that there's any official 3rd place, but failed, right? Failed to get the outcome I wanted. And that taught me more than probably like half of the projects I've been working on that were obviously funded and like official projects that wound up going through, externally contracted or IRAD, right? So all I'm trying to get at here is, you know, as an engineer, like, as a field, we really are being paid to fail. And, you know, I know when we talk about normalizing failure, the way we talk about it is, you know, don't feel as bad. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. I feel like crap when I fail, right? Rather, I would say acknowledge that the crap you feel right now is what will make you better and what ultimately you're going to get paid for. Just like going to the gym, right? Like, you go to the gym and you feel like crap, your arms hurt, your chest is sore, you know, don't even talk about leg day. And then when you leave, right, it's all that pain that is going to drive muscle growth or whatever the hell else you're looking for, right? Muscle growth, increased cardio, whatever you're training, right? And so for us, it's like, you know, you would never tell an athlete, hey, you're going to get stronger by training less hard, right? We would never normalize feeling less bad about training softly because you're going to lose, right? And so for engineers, it's like we shouldn't normalize, don't beat yourself up, blah, 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 when you fail. You know, however you react to your failures, that's up to you. The onus is on you. But we should normalize saying the failure is what's going to push you to be a better engineer and ultimately make you a better engineer, right? That is the way. That obstacle is the way. So, yeah, I mean, this is kind of a random one-off video that I've been meaning to make for a little while. Obviously, it can kind of, it borders on like self-improvement-y stuff, which I do primarily focus on engineering with this channel. But I think it's really important for engineers. Like I do think this field in particular is very failure driven. And like, I have really learned so much more from my failures than I have from my successes in engineering. And I think that's probably true for most people, or would be true if people push themselves hard enough to fail a bunch as I have. So yeah, that's basically this kind of rambly video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you couldn't tell, I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional development content for engineering in general, but I specifically work on aerospace engineering and artificial intelligence. And so if those are things you're interested in and kind of trying to learn how to navigate your career in engineering as you go, like I am, it's something you're interested in, this is a channel for you. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening to the ramblings of a crazy person, and I will see you in the next episode.